Welcome to the Talkback Fans High School Football Preview Show with the Walsh Jesuit Warriors. I'm Terry Heil.
I'm Jimmy Simonis.
And we are live on tape from the estuary that is all the cities that come together to form the campus of Walsh Jesuit. The Warriors are formerly members of the North Coast League, which is now broken up, so they're independents this year, although I'm hearing rumblings that the North Coast League is going to reform next year, but we'll get to that when we talk to Coach. The Warriors are coming off of a 1-9 season. They were victorious in Week 8 against Notre Dame Cathedral Latin. They had several other close calls last year. If you saw these guys, they didn't look like a 1-9 team. We're going to talk about how they're going to build off of that. And right now we are joined by senior defensive back, wide receiver, kick returner, basically the Swiss Army knife of the Walsh Jesuit Warriors, Dom Greguric. Dom, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
So, Don, this is a repeat trip for you. I believe we talked to you last year, correct?
Yeah, at Lake Catholic.
Yes.
And I think we played at Menor, I believe. Yeah.
That is correct. That is correct. So, Dom, again, last year, 1-9, but took several steps forward as a player, especially being somebody who's on both sides of the ball. How do you build off of that to take that next step this year and take significant movement forward?
Well, I just think we keep going. I think we were on the right path last year. I mean, you saw a lot of those games, the score didn't reflect a 1-9 team. We were with Cleveland Heights all the way throughout the game, and they're a D1 playoff team. So we're just going to keep going. We're changing the culture here, and that's the goal, is to just, keep rolling.
Yeah. So talk about how you guys are changing the culture.
Back before Coach Alexander came, football wasn't taken as seriously here. We didn't have as long as practice. It wasn't as intense. But now, we're like, football's number one thing here at Walsh, and we're every day we're coming in with the same mentality, and that's like our new thing, laser focused. We're staying laser focused for week 1, and that's what we're focused on. So every day at practice, it's the same thing, laser focused. Practice how you play.
And of all three roles of your wide receiver, defensive back, kick returner, do you have a favorite?
No, I don't have a favorite. No, I get that question a lot. Like, where do I want to play? I like them all for different reasons. Yeah.
Obviously, with this being a tumultuous offseason with COVID and all that, how have you and your team been able to persevere through all these circumstances?
I think just, staying focused, trying to be positive throughout it, because if you get all negative about it, you're just not going to practice well. We're following all the rules, all the guidelines to stay healthy, and we're just trying to look ahead and have laser focus for week 1.
When you look at what's going on, you guys are a couple of weeks in now practice, beginning of the third week. Talk about where you think you guys are at on both sides of the ball.
I think we're ahead of a lot of teams, honestly, because I think we started our Zoom meetings very, very early on in the spring. So I think we're ahead of a lot of teams. Now, we did just start hitting, but I still believe we are ahead of a lot of teams, and I think we're ahead of schedule for us, I think.
Okay. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys did go through in the spring without, not being able to be on campus, not being able to be in a weight room, coaches either, texting you or Zoom meeting you the workouts for the day, everybody having different equipment, some guys not having any. How did you guys kind of work through that?
So we all had lifting schedules, so everybody was supposed to lift at least once a day. Some people were doing twice. I was outside running, stuff like that. We had Zoom meetings every single week for our position groups had different Zoom meetings, and we were just kind of learning the offense. It's the same offense as last year, but for the new guys, and then it's just a good reminder for all the returning varsity players. So that's basically what we were doing.
Yeah. How much does it change having graduated your quarterback, Cam Mays?
I mean, it changes a little bit of a chemistry that we had, but I still think it's the same thing with me. I'm still running my routes hard. I'm still, catching the ball and stuff like that. So I think I'm pretty sure it'll be the same exact, it'll be the same chemistry. We just need to form that with whoever's going to be our starting QB.
And again, being a senior this year, your leadership, how you had to be as a leader this year had to change considering the circumstances. How have you and your senior teammates been able to approach this offseason and the practices?
We've been just trying to get on guys and be a good leader. Like last year, we didn't really have any seniors on the defense, so I kind of felt like I took over the leadership role. So it's the same thing as last year for me. And we're just trying to get on everybody, trying to keep everybody positive, keep that changing the culture thing. Everybody's trying to work hard at practice, and we're just trying to lead, just like every other senior would.
Talk a little bit about your position groups, the wide receivers and then the DBs, and then if you want to talk about the returners as well.
Yeah, I think we're deep in wide receivers this year. We are really deep in the skill position, and everybody that's behind me, I trust just as much myself. We got a lot of good guys this year. We have a couple new wide receivers that came in, and they're going to make some noise, I would say. And at DB, we're looking very good this year as well. Basically, our whole defensive backs returning, both of our corners. We have and both of our safeties as well. So we're looking good. And then returners, it'll be the same crew last year. I'll return punts, and then I'll return kicks, and there'll be one other guy, but that's undecided right now.
Yeah. So from having that whole DB group back, and it was a young group last year,
Very.
in coach's defensive scheme, how important is that you guys are really going to be really solid there on the back end?
Oh, it's really important because we're trying to stop the run this year, so that puts a lot of pressure on the DBs to, make sure we're not getting beat over top or screwing up. So we got to be really smart, really focused at all times. We can't really take any plays off.
What's it like playing for Coach Bach?
Oh, it's awesome. He brings the intensity every day at practice. Gets on us sometimes, kind of scares me a couple times when he yells, but other than that, it's awesome.
The reputation precedes you, Coach Bach. Okay, and on the offensive side of the ball, with the wide receivers, again, an experienced group coming back. How are you guys going to be incorporated with the other skill guys that you have this year, the guys in the backfield?
I think it'll be relatively similar to last year. Who knows? I would see it as more whatever's working for us. I'm not going to go out and say we're going to throw the ball every down if the run's working, but I do see us throwing a lot just like last year.
When you graduate and you kind of look back, what do you want to be the hallmark that you left here?
Be the class that really changed Walsh Jesuit Football program around. Honestly, that's what I would like. For a long time we've been looked down upon by our rivals and by everybody else, and it'd be nice to just change that and kind of set the new stepping stone for that we're a good football program and a solid football program.
Do you think with a 6-game regular season that's going to change anything, your attitude or how you prepare?
Not for me, no, and it shouldn't for our team. We're going into week one like it's week one of a 10-game season, so it's the same mentality here.
Beautiful. We have been joined by Walsh Jesuit senior defensive back, wide receiver, and kick returner Dom Gaguric. Dom, thanks very much for the time. Greatly appreciate it, and I wish you a full season of healthy.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
We are now joined by Walsh Jesuit senior offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and University of Kentucky commit Dave Wallaball. Dave, how are you this evening? Thanks for joining us.
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hey, thanks for being here. Greatly appreciate it. First off, congratulations on the commitment to University of Kentucky.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. What were the other options you had, and what made Kentucky the right choice?
Some of the other options I had: Akron, Kent, Toledo, Maryland, Purdue, and some other schools like that. And I chose Kentucky mainly just because of the coaching staff. I feel like really at home there.
Okay. Very good. And for those of you who don't know, his father Dave played for the Cleveland Browns, and your brother is still at Duke, correct? With one last year of eligibility, correct?
One more year.
Beautiful. Okay, so as you look at your senior year, right, you guys took some steps forward last year. How do you build off of last year to really take some significant movement this year?
We're just taking our momentum from last year, because just winning one game, we're not satisfied with that. We're just going to try, keep winning, get better and better every day and stuff like that.
What's it like playing for Coach Alexander?
It's different, but he's a real high energy guy, so I really like it. He brings the juice every day to practice.
Kind of a ball buster too, isn't he, from what we're seeing over here, huh?
Yeah, sometimes he can be, yeah.
Yeah. Talk about the guys on the O-line that are up there with you.
We have 3 returning stars this year, me, Joey DeAngelis, and Nathan Boggs, 3 starters, so we're looking good. And we have 2 guards that are coming in, one junior and one sophomore, and we just need to build a relationship with them and get used to playing with them.
Yeah. And what would you say is the strength of the O-line?
I would say right now, we're really working on the run right now, and we've been doing a lot better compared to last year, which is really good. I'm really looking forward to that.
I would say, how do you feel about going into this season, playing 6 games? How do you feel going into it?
I'm just thankful to have a season this year, just because questions earlier this year, wasn't really sure if we were going to have one, so I'm just really happy and thankful that we're having one, for sure.
Talk a little bit about the guys on the defensive line with you.
Defensive line, same situation. We have some returning starters, but I didn't play too much last year, so it's like my first real year of playing high school D-line. I like it, but it's just a different mood, different change than O-line.
Yeah. And first time being on the D-line, what's it like playing for Coach Bach?
He's a different coach than what I'm used to. He's a real loud guy, yells a lot, so it's a change.
You mean to tell me that Coach Turner doesn't yell at you guys?
He does, just not as much as Coach Bach. Coach Bach's a real yeller. He's a real loud guy.
We're going to get to talk to him. We'll see if he can rebut that for us. So as you look at your senior year, and you look at getting ready to graduate, what do you want to be when you look back on your time here at Walsh Jesuit, football and as a student? What do you want a hallmark to be that you left here?
I just really want our class to be known for changing the football culture, just because, the culture before this wasn't too good, and then we just got to change it and then have everyone else build off of it.
I say, and you're talking about changing the culture. What in these last, let's say, a year and a half, what are some of the biggest things you've seen throughout your 4 years in this program?
Some of the biggest things I've seen was really coaching, really. You know, practices are a lot longer now, way more intense, just everything we do, just with more of a purpose now rather than years before this.
School obviously takes up a lot of time. You got a lot of time committed to football in the weight room. When you do get a little bit of free time, what do you like to do with it?
I usually like to work out and stuff like that, play video games. Those are my main two right now, just staying home.
You got a favorite video game?
No, not right now, just play a couple games. Just a few.
Last year we ran into a lot of Fortnite guys, right, Pat?
Yeah, I don't play that game now.
Beautiful. So as a senior and as a leader, what is it that you're trying to impart on the young guys to help them, after you're gone, continue to take steps forward in the program?
You know, just really coach them up and teach them, you know, set an example for what they should be when I'm gone, just be leaders and stuff like that.
All right. Well, we have been joined by Walsh Jesuit senior offensive lineman and defensive lineman Dave Wollabaugh. Dave, thank you very much for the time. Greatly appreciate it, and I wish you a full season of healthy.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We are now joined by Walsh Jesuit defensive coordinator Phil Bachfitz. Coach, how are you this afternoon?
Very well, thank you. Thank you guys for coming out.
Beautiful. Thanks for having us. Greatly appreciate it. So, Coach, what's going to be the hallmark of the Walsh Jesuit Warrior defense this year?
We should let Dom and Dave answer that question. We got three things we're pounding in their head. So, number one, we're going to stop the run.
So Dave gets a check mark there.
Yep. So we, looking back at last year, you know, we did not do a very good job of that, and so it's been a real big emphasis this offseason. Stop the run. Number two, have great fundamentals and technique. We're pounding that in their head. Our individual times in practice have been way longer than they've ever been. So they're having individual time with their coaches, and then we want a bunch of takeaways. We had opportunities last year. We had a couple games where we did get a lot of takeaways, but we want that to be a bigger point of emphasis, give it back to the offense, and let them go do some work. So those are our big three things, and I hope when people come watch us play, they notice that, and that's what they take away from the game.
Yeah. And for you, second year here, second year with Coach Alexander, biggest change from year one to year two?
You know, I would say number one, like Coach Alexander, he's been around football a lot. He makes great relationships with coaches around in our profession. So our coaching staff has changed a lot. When you come out to one of our practices now, we have a lot of guys out, which is awesome because our guys are getting coached up. So we have two guys with the O-line. We got two guys with the corners. We got two guys with the every position group almost has two coaches. And these guys want to be here. It's not like they're making any money. And so that tide has turned, which then heightens our practice. Like our practices so far have been way more intense. I mean, we're flying around. The other big thing compared to last year is we have a lot more competition at positions. Last year we didn't have as many competitions, and so competition brings the best out of our guys, and they're really stepping up to it. And you know, we're finding out now the guys are not afraid to compete, and the guys that are, and you know, we're trying to whittle down where we'll be at week one with who will be on the field, and it's been exciting to watch.
I would say, as being the defensive coordinator, what's the biggest thing that you're looking for entering this season?
You know, I want us to be, you know, a force to be reckoned with. I want to stop, you know, get stops, and give the offense back the ball, limit what the offense can do. You know, and the other thing is, you know, we're in this thing for the long haul. So I'm looking for our guys and our coaching staff. They're being talked to. We're developing these young guys, and so it's not just what can we do this year. It's what do we have coming down the line, because you know we just want everything to keep on rolling. So, yeah.
Coach, when you look at everything that's happened, what I've politely called the distractions that we've been provided with the last 6 months, in your mind, what's the biggest positive that has come out of all of this?
You know, every coach is gonna. It's a hallmark that every coach says this is, you know, you got to control what you can control, right? So every coach has pumped that in all of our kids' heads. So our team has done a great job. And I would say probably all the kids around the state of Ohio have done a great job. You know, we've said this in the past as coaches, and it didn't really have the meaning it has like it does this year. And so our guys have really come to adapt and overcome. And, you know, when we have to, I mean, if you asked our guys what was going on in our building right before when they told us in the spring that we had to stop coming to school, there's a lot of different things that were going on in our building. And so they've went through a lot. And so I just can't believe these young people, how they handled it and how now it's going to help them later on in life. You know, if they can get through all this, you know, a lot of other big issues that come up in their life, they'll be able to handle.
Talk a little bit about each of the position groups, the D-line, the linebackers, and the D-backs, and then give us maybe a name or two of somebody who's under the radar right now, but by week 6, you expect is going to be a household name.
Yeah, I'll start up front. We got a lot of guys rotating in. There's a lot of good competition there. We got some older guys and younger guys. So we got a big surprise right now is Tyron Rogers at nose guard has been doing really well for us. And Boggs, who's also playing, he's going to be expected to play offense as well. So Boggs did a really good job at nose for us last year, but he's going to be asked a lot of the offensive line. So he's going to be a guy that Tyron now has stepped up to the plate and has been really great to see. We got some ends that we're still working on technique stuff. Some of these guys, it's not natural for them as of right now, so we're really working on it. But we got a freshman, Noah Brock, who works really hard. Maybe his name will be out there for sure in the years to come. We got JP Fida, that's like unbelievable motor that kid has. We got Connor Thomas, who's coming down, and he's going to play some end for us this year, who's learning the position. He's played a lot of linebacker. He's come down to learn that position. So he's a guy, too, that we're trying to get right on the line. And there's a bunch of other guys. Dave obviously is in that. Like Dave, Dave's a big guy, right? You guys just saw that. So if we'd be bad coaches if we're getting the rock pounded down our throat and we can't stop it, like Dave's got to be in there to help us out, and he's willing to do that. So it's great. Linebacker wise, we got not as deep as the D-line, but we have a lot of guys that are working hard. We got Bailey Russ, who's come back, who's played a lot of football here, senior leader, who we look for him to keep stepping up and really be a force at the linebacker position. Casey Kish is a wrecking ball right now, and it's good. His motor never stops, along with his mouth, and we're trying to get that team down.
Is that a good thing, Coach?
Well, here's the thing. He had a week of practice last year where his mouth wasn't running, and he didn't play very well. So it's like one of those things, and he knows it. We love Casey, and he works extremely hard. He takes a lot of reps, and it's great. And then on the other side, we have RJ Bentley, who's battling with Joe Cerrito at a linebacker position, and it's been really great to see those guys. And it's like true competition that, one guy might look better one day than the next guy, and so their level of play just keeps coming up. We got George Granchi, who's getting in the mix as well at a linebacker position. So it's really good because when we say twos, they're not twos yet, but we're like competing. You're always being evaluated. And at the safety position, obviously Dom, he's played a lot of football here as well, as the leader in that back half. Our corners, we're really excited with our corners this year with Mikey Pollard and Klug, and they've been going to town. They've taken the technique and fundamentals that we talked about in our second goal, and they've went to town with it. And their play, and then they're competing against our competition on the offensive side of the ball has been really, really good. So they're getting great looks. And then we have Josh Grogan, who's a young guy who's going to help us out a lot back there, who's competing with some guys. And Josh Grogan, he's a guy right now. He's our key to everything because he can play all the different positions of the safeties that we're asking. He can play anything right now. And then we have Jake Campagna, who's also battling for quarterback, and now he's battling for a safety spot as well. And we have a couple other guys in the mix as well as safety, but it's been really, really good just having the depth that we've had this year.
With Terry talking about the distractions in the spring, and chemistry being very important on the defensive side of the ball, how have you been able to pretty much on the fly get the defense and the players that are competing to gel and start to work well with one another?
Well, I think that started last year with a lot of guys returning. And it's been great because it's like, remember when we did this? And so they have a prior knowledge that we can tap back into. And it's made it a way better. Now, we got some guys that might be in a different position, so, it takes a little bit more coaching in those spots. But, our guys here at Walsh, like, they're sponges. They want to learn. So it doesn't really take that much to get them to gel because they're all in. When Coach Alexander's on the board or I'm on the board, like, these guys are quiet, they're listening, they're attentive, and they're soaking it in. And now we go get it, and we get it to translate on the field. And so it's not as hard here as you might think to get that to happen.
Coach, you talked a lot about rotations and competitions at different positions. Fingers crossed we get some good news tomorrow. May change this, but normally you'd be able to resolve that in scrimmages. Right now, there's nothing scheduled. So if that doesn't change, how do you go about resolving some of the issues you would normally resolve in a scrimmage?
Yeah, I mean, if I know you guys got a little here a little later. If you see the way we practice, like our practice is intense. We're going. Now we're not live all the time. We're not allowed to be live all the time, but we're kind of looking at it like a D1 college. Like D1 colleges don't get any scrimmages, and that's what makes some of the best programs, because they're competing to show that on the film and in practice. I literally, before our inside run period today, I went up and I said, listen, if you're putting your resume out there on film and you're being evaluated. We harp this in their ears all the time. You're being evaluated. You're being evaluated. So they know that. And so we'll be able to handle that within our practices, and because that's just the way we do it out here on the field.
Yeah, so that college approach, where every rep you take, whether it's in practice, in a weight room, whatever, that's all on tape. Your resume is being built every day when you're out here, whether you're doing it against somebody in a different colored jersey or not.
Yeah, I wrestled in high school, and I love to use the wrestle off analogy. When a guy has to wrestle off for his spot every week, those are the best wrestlers. The guy that has no other competition in his weight class on his own team doesn't do as well, right? And so we want that competition. We welcome it, and we need our guys to welcome it and not back down from it. And that's it just keeps making our level of play better and better.
And you were talking about evaluations. What are some of the main factors you're looking for in your players that you want on the field come Friday, Saturday nights?
Well, I said from day one, the guys that have the fundamentals and technique down, right? Like that's more important than anything. There's all kinds of guys that have this raw talent. And it's our job as coaches to get that raw talent into the fundamentals and technique. But we need guys that we can rely on. Within our scheme, we have to work together. So if a guy's going to do his own thing, it doesn't work well, and that's going to give up big plays. And I think the guys, they obviously see it on film, because they don't do it intentionally, but if a guy kind of goes and does his own thing, it ultimately, it always finds that weak spot. And, and so the team sees it. Like, we watch more film than any high school program I've been around. And so they see it, and it's readily, they're like, okay, I get it. It's on their phones now. I mean, we're meeting the players where they're at. Like, they got the huddle app on their phone, and they're watching it, and they know. And now we're getting to the point, like with Dom and some of our senior leaders, like, I don't even have to say it. Like, we're getting to that point where I don't have to make the correction when someone messes up, because they can correct themselves, and that's where we want to be.
So it's funny how the guy who goes rogue, it always stands out on film, and not always in a good way, huh, Coach?
It finds them, I'm telling you. Yep, that's the way football works.
Yeah. So, Coach, we're going to wrap this up. I have a coach's question. I ask it a little different every year, but my question for you this year is, why are you who you are?
I think I am who I am because of where I come from, my parents, growing up in southeastern Ohio, having a great work ethic. I grew up working hard, and that's what everybody did where I grew up. There was no give-me's where I grew up. Not that it was like hard knocks or anything. It was just a good, hard-working town, and so I learned that. And then I think the other big thing is, going to John Carroll really changed me. I really kind of transformed there, and then also at John Carroll, becoming a GA as a coach, that formed me tremendously, with Coach Arth at Akron and Coach Zagorski at Akron and everything. And, I just watched Brandon Staley's press conference, which I coached with him a year. Now he's the D coordinator, with the Chargers, and Jonathan Cooley, who's
there's 5-6 guys from John Carroll with the Chargers, right?
It's like I was in the same class as Cooley. We lived in the same dorm, and now I saw him on Twitter running with Jalen Ramsey and stuff. So, but it's great, that football pedigree that I feel now I'm a part of, and I can bring it out to these guys, and hopefully I think they respect where my work ethic and getting after it, and yeah, so I think that's who I am.
From the way these guys speak, I think that they do, Coach. We have been joined by Walsh Jesuit defensive coordinator Phil Bakovich. Coach, thank you very much for your time.
Guys.
Greatly appreciate it, and I wish you a full season of health.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck this season as well for you guys.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
Thanks.
We are now joined by Walsh Jesuit head coach Nick Alexander. Coach Alexander in his second season here at Walsh Jesuit. Coach, thanks for joining us. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for making the trek down here to Summit County. We got to see you guys twice last year, and both were awesome, and I appreciate everything you guys do for high school football.
Thank you very much, Coach. Yeah, there were numerous drivers who tried to prevent Pat from getting here on the way down here. They were trying to drive as slow as they could to see if they could frustrate him, but somehow we still made it, so it was all good. So, Coach, how do you build off of what you what you built, what you started to build last year, that foundation that you started last year?
Yeah, so last year was a start. We actually heard PJ Fleck speak at the state coaches clinic, and he said year one's really year zero. So we kind of embody that as a staff, and we really said that last year was a start, and we kind of laid the foundation. And now to build on that, how we do it, like Coach Bach mentioned, we added new staff members. I think getting the staff right year one is way harder than anybody tells you. You know, you kind of get the job and you think of all these X's and O's, blah, blah, blah. But like Coach Bach was talking about, it's all about relationships and making sure you have the right people in front of your kids. Once that happens, then you start to see the tide turn and the culture start to shift. As long as there's one message across the board, and that's the same message and the constant message, as long as that's what we are preaching, that's what I've seen most this offseason is our kids have all bought in. And it was awesome hearing those two talk because they literally, it's like I hear myself in them. You know what I mean? And that's what that's why I coach.
That's got to be pretty gratifying to see that, because it tells you that it's being absorbed, but it also tells you that they're then able to apply it, because they're coming back probably in similar situations, describing things exactly as you would describe them if you were given the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got to spend a lot of time with these two. We went to the Build a Bridge challenge that Cleveland Heights started. I don't know if you guys saw that going on Twitter. But they're just awesome kids, awesome character, awesome families, and they embody everything that a Walsh Jesuit football player is.
And who was your bridge team, Coach?
Our bridge team was Akron East. The problem is they never cleared us to be allowed to do anything with another team.
Gotcha.
So we had plans to throw 7-on-7. However, we're really fingers crossed that everything's good to go, but we weren't able to throw 7-on-7 because of that.
Gotcha.
Well, here you are, year two. Last year, you got a kind of a step forward. You had one of the best quarterbacks, we think, in the entire area last year with Cam. Talk about that group and what you're looking for from that group this year and how they're going to take that step.
Yeah, first, Cam was such a gutsy quarterback last year. You know, he played all 10 games, every play like it was his last. And it was honestly, like, looking back at what he did and the body of work, his legacy that he left here, that will not go unnoticed. Even though his win-loss record wasn't great here, his work won't go unnoticed. So that group, how I initially started with that group this year, we have a quarterback battle going right now between 3, potentially 4 guys. And I say that with all seriousness. You may see, whoever's the hot hand at the time currently, it's going to play out, and it always does play out. I actually hired Anthony Meglin. He was a quarterback at John Carroll. He leads them in tons of stats, and he also leads them in his interceptions. But it's because he played a lot there.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, it's because he played a lot there. I don't know who his quarterback coach was, but he played a lot there. So
I think I remember who was his quarterback coach for a little while. Don't you, Pat?
it was my fault.
I think what he's saying is those that can do, those that can't coach.
It's exactly right. So Coach Meglin's been awesome. We've had quarterback school since December. They came in at least once a week, and he had them on Zooms all over the offseason. And our quarterbacks know the system. They know exactly what we're looking for. All 4 of them can throw the football, which is rare at a high school team, right? Which we've had some coaches come up from colleges that aren't able to go right now, and they're like, how many arms do you guys have? And honestly, it's a good problem to have. I'm just waiting for one of them to separate. So it's a great room. It's a talented room. Someone's just got to separate. And if they're watching, we're still waiting for someone to separate. So.
And it's got to be pretty helpful that you got some skill position guys coming back to, kind of lessen the load on a young quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Our skill coming back is awesome. This is the deepest skill team I've been around since my years at Menor, honestly. Back there, it's like we're like 7 deep right now, just wide receiver wise. We got a couple of really good backs that I'm excited about to see them get after it. It's exciting. It's a fun group to coach. Dom leads that receiving group. Really, other than Dom and Ben Ligon, the rest of them are all underclassmen as well. You guys got to see Christian Ochi a little bit last year. He had a big catch against Lake Catholic. He played a lot for us. He's back, and he's honestly looking bigger and faster and stronger. It's amazing what playing as a sophomore will do. And the sophomores that got so much experience last year, they don't look like just juniors out there on the field right now. They're ready to go.
Yeah. Coach, you referenced a little bit about the chemistry on the staff and that was something that was a big learning point for you. Year 1 to year 2, outside of that, what's the biggest change?
The buy-in. The buy-in is the biggest change. Just because these guys last year, I came in and I was the crazy energetic coach, right? And through enthusiasm and passion and love for the game and the love for them in a short period of time, they were able to gravitate towards that and play hard. Now, having been around them, now I know their families. Now I know about what they do on the weekends. Now I know we text every day. It's just the relationship aspect of it. Now I know when it comes to crunch time, I know I can look at David and say, we're going to run the ball behind you, get us this yard. Now I know, Dom, I'm coming to you here on 4th down, make this play. I know you have it in you. Let's go get it. And last year it was, where do we go on the 2-point conversion against Lake Catholic? The ball wasn't coming out of Cam Mays' hands, right? Like I told you guys after that game. So that was like my guy last year, So now I feel like I got more guys that I just had. I knew I could go to war with Cam last year, right? We knew we could throw it. We knew. Now I feel like I got 11 of them.
So you talk a lot about buy-in. I've heard you and Coach both talk about buy-in a lot. Besides the players, how has the community bought into what you're trying to do here at Walsh?
Yeah, it's been awesome in the building. There's been rumors in the building and a lot of talk going on that football sucks the air out of every room. And I think of that as a compliment. It might have been like a shot at football, but to me, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like people are talking about Walsh football. We went 1-9 in year 1, and they always just like the young, energetic coach. Have you guys met him? Like, whatever. The community, I got more basketball players to come out and play football than we did the year before. So multi-sport guys, so the buzz is getting out. The buy-in's been awesome. My athletic director, Mark Hassman, athletic administrator, Barb Salata, President Carl Ertl, honestly, they've been awesome. And during this time, I feel fully supported by them, which is great. I know they have, the problem is my own personal goals and things exceed anything that's in that building. So I'm never satisfied, and that's kind of like the mentality that I live with.
So along those lines, Coach, 1-9 last year, get the 6-game schedule. Hopefully we get approval tomorrow. Some coaches we've talked to are using it a little bit more to replace some of those scrimmages that are there. That is not your approach.
No.
You are not satisfied with the fact that you will be playing week 7. Talk about why the laser focus and why even though the schedule's out there, you're only talking about week 1.
Yeah, week 1's all that matters. So we preach what's important now. And if I didn't preach that myself, my players wouldn't believe it and buy into it like we keep talking about. So every single time that this team takes the field, we're putting that Walsh Jesuit on our chest, and we have to restore the tradition. And that's what Dom and Dave said, that if they could leave one thing here, notice their goals, and big goal is obviously always to win a state title. Mm-hmm. But they talked about week 1. We got to win week 1. If we win week 1, we give ourselves a chance to be 2-0. But week 2 doesn't matter at all right now because you can't get to 2-0 unless you're 1-0. So the playoffs are great. But to me, the opportunity to win football games is now. I have 12 seniors, and they're talented. They've all played. I got a good up-and-coming classes. I have to find a way to win football games right now. And the laser focus thing is I talk about like a train track. We're on the track, and we're going to NDCL. Right, and every day we got to throw some more coal, and we got to come to work and just keep putting it in so we pick up that steam and we get there faster and we roll right through. That's our goal. And the guys that to hear Dom say laser focus like 10 times in his interview, and I know I say it a lot, so he's probably just trying to get out of running tomorrow, but it was awesome.
So the schedule, we're not going to talk about it because but how do you get the group in a year that no one really knows what's what? Hopefully, like Terry said, we'll learn something tomorrow. How do you get the group to understand that it's a week-to-week focus and not, because obviously the schedule is going to be a little bit different than it normally is based on the fact that your conference isn't together anymore and there's going to be some different things going on. How do you get them to buy into you need to focus on just what's going on this week, and we'll worry about week 2 when week 2 hits?
Well, one, we just don't tell them about week 2. You know what I mean? So if nobody, and they get mad at me, but if nobody's talking about it, then they don't know about it. And I use this point. We talked about it before, but if our week 2 opponent, if something were to happen with COVID or something were to happen then the day before our game, it would kind of try to take us off of that track that we're on, that train track, right? It would kind of try to derail us, and they'd be worrying about, wait, are we going to have a week 2? And things that they don't need to worry about. The control what you can control mentality is during COVID is bigger than ever. Obviously, I've heard other coaches on the show talk about it, but it's so true. And there's no greater game and thing other than sports and football to teach you that. to handle this adversity of COVID, to handle the week-to-week grind that we're about to go in. Now, we were shut down for a little bit. We just got back on the field 3 days ago, right? So we're a little bit behind in the aspect of practices. What I do think it helped us with is with no scrimmages, we're pretty fresh. We're not banged up. We're fresh and we're ready to go. So no one's going to have the scrimmage. So week 1 is our Super Bowl. Week 2, then, when week 1's done, then week 1's over with. It was fun. Then week 2 will be our Super Bowl. Every week we have an opportunity to win. We got to go win.
Obviously, year 2 is a little bit different than year 1, but this is really different. How has your approach changed as far as having to deal with all of the outside influences that are going on right now?
It's a great question. So that's why we bring out the A guy here.
Absolutely. No offense to Jimmy, of course.
No, sorry, Jimmy. With everything going on in the world, with everything going on, there's no better time than to be together with them to be together with their brothers and around great role models that are on staff. It changes. It's obviously such a weird off season. We were on Zoom calls, installing. Coach Meglin never even was around the guys, maybe just met the quarterbacks, and all of a sudden his face is on there doing Zoom calls. Coach Turner, Coach Mahalik, our 2 line coaches are running Zoom calls, Coach Bach. So it's different. It's weird, but it's whoever comes out of this, whoever had the best lifting plan, whoever's guys lifted the most and did what they were supposed to do during the break, whoever retained the most is going to be most ready to play week 1. And I'm confident that our guys put themselves in a position where when we go out there, we'll be ready to play.
Coach, when you look at having been a little bit behind, because you said you guys missed a couple of days, right now, what would you say is the strength of the team? What gets you the most excited about where you're at position group-wise, and what's the group that you say, we got a little bit of work to do?
Yeah, so I think our strength, it's another good question. I think the strength of our team, and I'm saying this, is going to be our defense this year. And I think that's going to surprise some people. And I say that because I tell the guys, if you want to be a dude on our team, you're going to play on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to play with the rest of the guys on the offensive side of the ball. And that was a little minus O-lineman. O-lineman take priority. Sorry. It was O-line, and then it went to defense when Coach Bach and I sat there. And Coach Bach and I were on tons of Zooms together, with different college coaches and things. And we just talked about how do we get our best guys on defense so that we can fly around and play new style Walsh Jesuit football, right? And that's what I want people to see this year is I want them to walk away and be like, that defense flew around and they hit. The thing that's like I can sleep better at night is knowing that I have that receiving core and those backs. I feel confident in where we're at with them. I feel confident in what we have with the receiving core that we can go out there and call things even from last year, and they just look and they nod and they're ready to go. There's no better feeling than a signal caller when you give them the play and they have no hesitation, and they all just execute and it looks good, and having guys coming back helps in that sense. Having the 3 guys back up front is awesome. Obviously we had to fill 2 spots, but for what we had last year, to have 3 of them coming back is great, and especially another year with Coach Turner, and in our system. I hope that people also see the focus on running the football that we had this offseason. Coach Turner's got a hat made, the run the ball hat. He took it very personal last year that we had to throw the football, right?
We saw a little bit of that on the sidelines last year.
Right. So it was very personal that we had to throw the ball. And, at the end of the day, it's how my job as the head coach is to put our kids in the best situation to be successful. Last year, we put the ball in Cam Mays' hands, and he made plays with his feet and his arm. This year, with no Cam Mays, it's going to look a little bit different.
And so it sounds like new school Walsh Jesuit football looks a little bit like old school under Coach Reardon Walsh Jesuit football.
Being in the shotgun, though, but yes,
right.
It is. We'll still, don't get me wrong, we'll still throw the ball around and get the ball into different people's hands. The difference is back then, and from everything I've heard, and I talk with Coach Reardon a lot, he's a great mentor. He's the dean of students in there. Their line they had like 5 Wallabaws.
Yeah, they were very big, and they had. It seemed like they had backs who could kind of, not like a Chardon where there was the deception because of what they were running, but they had guys who were just big enough to hide behind the O-line, and then when they got a crack, they were gone.
Yeah, right. So we're not there yet. You know, we're working on it. We had a big freshman line last year. Our freshman team was 8-2 last year. They were awesome to watch. They had us very excited, you know, moving forward. One of those sophomores is going to play up front for us right away. But we are hopefully going to move in that direction. We joke that in 2 years we will look very different up front than we do this year. Well, David stands out a lot up front right now.
This is going to be a little difficult. I'm going to try to phrase this correctly. In a year with COVID and everything that's going on, how important is your training staff going to be to what you guys are trying to accomplish on the field?
Trainer Mark is awesome, and they're so important. He's been here with us. We came back May 26th. He has been here with us every day. He helped develop the plan to come back. He helps us follow all of the procedures. We have Trainer Mark. We have Shelby. We have Noah. So we have, and then we have 2 assistants from Akron. So we have a lot of people here to help us. The social distancing thing that goes on, I got a big staff, but it's still a lot that goes into it. To get into our locker room is like a 7-page procedural chart that Trainer Mark and I came in here with Coach Bach, and we measured how are we going to get 6 feet, how many pods do we have to go in.
And knowing since we were in there last year, it's probably bound with calligraphy and all kinds of neat stuff too.
Yahtzee, let's go.
No. I mean, honestly though, our training staff is so important. And he does a great job. He's also our equipment manager. So like he handles so many things that he takes off of my plate. And being a young coach, so many things. He's like, hey, when are we going to lay out the game pants or what, or the belt? And I'm just like, oh, good call. Yep, we're going to do that. You know, last year I was treading water.
Coach, you've talked about bringing some young guys in, adding to the staff, kind of doubling up at every position. What's your philosophy behind why you did that?
Yeah, so the young guys, I coached them. You know, so they speak the same language. They've been in the same system. I have that trust. You know, and really that's what it comes down to is the trust. I know that I can turn my back on the quarterbacks this year and go work with the receivers because Anthony's running the quarterbacks. I know with Coach Turner and Coach Mahalik, there's 5 offensive linemen. Coach Turner was in his first year teaching and coaching as an offensive coordinator last year. He had the nice title. So it was like now Coach Turner has Coach Mahalik. They can split up. You know what I mean? They can actually work together. And it's very unselfish group. And I think about that. If you have 2 guys at each position, Coach Turner could have taken it and been like, Coach, why are you bringing in another O-line coach? Well, I had a guy that I knew, you know what I mean? And we had a relationship, and it was like, this is a great fit. Let's make it happen. You know, and a great fit. We've been together before. Oh, and then Anthony said yes. And then, you know, and things just kind of happened that way. And again, I got to thank the Mark Hossaman and those guys. And it's tough to have enough money to make sure everybody's happy, you know. But again, you don't do this because of that. They're unselfish group. We gel well together. We actually brought back Coach Thomas. Coach Thomas was a defensive coordinator here for 30 years. He's coaching linebackers, so it's nice to have him back on the field, and he kind of brings that tradition back, you know. And he helps me. He's always telling me stories and things, you know, about what happened in the past. Because unlike, you know, Marty at Lake and things like that, I didn't go here, right? So they're kind of taking me in, and I'm here as an in-law, basically. I guess you could say, as my wife's in-law.
You're Walsh Jesuit by marriage, right, Coach?
Yes.
So, as you guys are embarking on this practice, talk about the special teams and what that's going to mean, especially when you guys don't have a lot of prepare time, you know, before you got to get ready to go.
Yeah, so special teams comes first, always here. Last year, the best thing that kept us in games, even that Mayfield game week 1, was our special teams. Dom almost took one to the house several times, and I joke that, and as much as special teams get you in a game, the fumble we had against Mayfield took us out of a game, you know. So special teams is huge. Coach Bach, he wears a ton of hats, and his title when you guys introduced him wasn't even enough. I think he gave up video coordinator to Coach Turner this year, but he also is our special teams coordinator. He's doing a great job of delegating, and other guys on staff are actually picking up the slack so he can focus on the defense. But we take a lot of pride in it. We got a sophomore kicker, Cooper Curda. He's a name that you're gonna hear more and more as we go.
It's a kicker name all day long.
Cooper Curda, yeah. He kicked with the Browns kicker this summer. Ross Martin was here. He came home. He kicked at Duke, and he was with the Jets and the Browns. He came back and worked with him, and he kind of got us on a schedule. I'll be honest, right? And I tell Cooper this all the time. I don't know much about kicking. I know that you got to keep your head down and you got to put it between the uprights. So my kicking advice is got to put it between those things, you know.
Well, when they send you out there, you better make it.
Exactly. Hey, exactly. So I'm very honest with him. So it was awesome to have an alum come back and help, and kind of gave me a plan to put Cooper through, which is great. So we can develop him, and he's not just getting lost in the shuffle. Our holder's back in Ados, which is awesome. We lost our long snapper. So that's a position that is like open competition, basically, and it's funny to see some of the guys that try it. Sometimes we look like the little giants popping that ball back there. But all things considered, to have the holder catch, a good holder that can catch and get it down, and a kicker that can boot it is helpful.
Coach, it's time. Why are you who you are?
So I was thinking about this because I watch all the shows.
We thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah.
Really
So,
appreciate it.
well, now that I know it's
37 times.
it's a number competition, now I regret watching. No. So I think it starts, I got to say, my parents got divorced at a young age, but they're both super competitive. And I think I get my competitive spirit from them. My mom and I became very close growing up. And the find a way mentality that I live with, I really think came from her, in the sense of, I was young, right? And we didn't know how to fix some things that would break in the house or something. And we would just find a way. Now, she would like to, me put her on my shoulders to change a light bulb, you know what I mean? Or tie something up, Jimmy rig it, and just try to.
I've been there, Coach.
Yeah,
I went through some similar things.
Except Terry didn't have to get on anybody's shoulders.
Right. Yes. But just try to make it work, So that we just found a way, and we just kept going. And my dad's super competitive. He coached at St. Francis and St. Clair on the east side growing up. So he coached me my whole life. And my friends used to say, hey, your dad would make us watch film in the back of the car at 7 years old. He'd open the trunk and we'd sit there and we'd watch
Super 8s?
We'd watch film, and then they'd go, the only reason you were good as
Google it, Jimmy.
The only reason you were good as a kid is because no one else knew what they were doing. So it was one of those,
okay.
And I'll take it, because you got to have those guys. But so yeah, my parents and my upbringing was awesome, and then it expands from there. I had a great family, I had great uncles, I had great cousins, that pushed me, and then Coach Pino and Coach Fanati were awesome at Mayfield. If it wasn't for Coach Fanati, I may have been at NDCL. I probably wouldn't be standing here today.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, so for sure, because of Coach Fanati, I went to Mayfield High School and Coach Pino, and they kept me there, and I'm so thankful for that. So between my parents, the mentors, Coach Trevisano as well, who I was fortunate enough to work under, and just the great coaches that have been around. The first staff that Fanati brought me on at St. Ed's, John Hunick's now at Berea Mid-Park. Pete Pappas is still the D coordinator at Ed's. Coach Scanlon over there, a legendary offensive line coach. I just learned so much from those guys. And I was just at Red Kenny at VASJ, D coordinator over there. And he just kept saying, take care of the people, take care of the people. You're going to be good one day. Just keep taking care of the people. So those messages, and then Coach Janiak and Coach Gray and Coach Fink at Menor, just taking something from everyone, taking a little nugget from everybody has really kind of formed. I find myself using all of their sayings all the time, and in my head I laugh, but nobody else would know who I'm talking about. Long-winded answer, I apologize, but all of those people have made me who I am, and I'm thankful. So if they do end up watching, I'm thankful for all of them.
No, Coach, I can greatly appreciate that, and I'm sure Pat can too, because I've always believed that I'm the sum total of all the guys that I played for. Right? You take a little bit from everybody, and that kind of helps form your approach, and you go from there. So greatly appreciate the answer. All right, well, we've been joined by head coach from Walsh Jesuit, Nick Alexander. Coach, thank you very much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. I wish you a full season of healthy. And this has been the Talkback Fans High School Football Preview Show with the Walsh Jesuit Warriors. We'll see you when we see you.